everyone. Myself Nikhil from DSCI, and a grand welcome to all of you, all of our speakers and attendee to AISS 2021 from myself and on behalf of DSCI. The topic for today is sorry. Topic for today's session is cloud native DevSecOps, securing pipeline of the development of apps. And today we have different speakers from different industries. We have Miss Neha Agarwal, VP Technology Audit from Citibank. Can I have Miss Neha? Yeah, as our moderator. Yeah, thank you, Neha. So the other speakers are Mrs. Sapna Singh, Principal Cybersecurity Architect, and here. Can I have Miss Neha?
Hello.
Hi. And Mr. Harshit Agarwal, co-founder, CEO of Appnox. Mr. Charles Gilman, Head of Information Security, Mula. And at last, Mr. Praveen Kwan, Cisco, Bipmo.
Hi everyone, not Cisco, CISO, Nikhil.
Sorry. Sorry. I welcome all of the speakers to the stage, and I request Sunil team to take me to the backstage.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this. To introduce myself shortly, my name is Neha Agarwal. I'm your moderator for the panel today. A little bit background about myself. I'm currently working as VP Technology Audit in Citibank, Singapore. I've previously worked for 6 years with KPMG Singapore and 4 years with EY Hong Kong in same technology audit and consulting. Cloud security is my passion area, and I was one of the founding members of the cloud consulting practice in KPMG Singapore. I have the CISA, CISP, and CCSP certifications, and recently was fortunate to be honored as Singapore's Top 100 Women in Technology 2021 and nominated as finalist for the Cybersecurity Award Professional category by AISS in 2020. Many thanks to DSCI for this wonderful opportunity to share our views on this esteemed platform of AISS 2021. And I am so excited to do this along with some wonderful co-panelists we have here. And they're really industry stalwarts. So let me start with a poll. Could you help me, Nikhil, to publish the first poll, please? Guys, can you see my screen? Nikhil, have you published the poll?
Yes.
Great. So just general question on cloud. Like every day we see so many billion emails going around, so many tweets, so many users. Can we guess how much data is on cloud as of last year? Because 2021 is not over yet. We see answers coming in. All right. Oh, great. So majority of you have answered it correctly. Yes, the cloud has such a major impact on all of us throughout. But as linking to today's topic, is the age-old SDLC waterfall programming approach could not have caught up with the dynamic and voluminous requirements of cloud applications, and which gave a birth to Agile and DevOps. DevOps as a software development approach, we all know has many technical and business benefits, including adaptive release management, shorter development cycles, increased development frequency, even faster time to market. No more exists the market where big fish eats the small fish. It's rather the fast fish eats the slow one. So no wonder giant companies are now deploying changes at the fastest rate ever. I hear within a year of Amazon's move to AWS, engineers were deploying code every 11.7 seconds on average. And with that phenomenal rate of deployment, even with that, like there were so many benefits in terms of significant reduction in the number and duration of outages, which led to increased revenues. But with these benefits also came risks, especially for people like us, the technology and security consultants. We saw increased security risks from the point of view of programmers given access to production environments, so no segregation of duties. Focus was more on delivery than documentation, as one of the tenets of DevOps and Agile Manifesto are working software over comprehensive documentation, rapid pace of change, and with cloud being so easily accessible to all, security issues were on a massive rise. So, to that rescue, from DevOps, we developed the DevSecOps, where the security is integrated inside the entire value chain or of your DevOps cycle, right? So it's not separately something which is in isolation to your DevOps thing. It's something which is part of your entire DevOps cycle as you see it here. More detailed diagram or description of DevSecOps ops to security ops within a DevOps cycle is described here, which our panelists will go in details and we can hear it directly from the experts, but this is just for our introduction purposes. Another reason why security is gaining threshold is because we don't invest money into something unless we see the risks or we see the benefits. Uh, I came across this when I found it really funny, gave me a hearty laugh that, yeah, once you see those risks, you will now everybody is moving towards DevSecOps to have that inbuilt security in their cloud applications. So moving on from there, taking this forward to our next panelist to talk about what exactly do we mean by these modern apps and how is it panning out in the industry. I would like to invite Praveen to also give us some strategic view on in-house capabilities of the enterprises for the modern apps and DevSecOps practice. Over to you, Praveen.
Thank you, Neha, for setting up the context. It was really fascinating to see revisit again the DevOps and DevSecOps infinity. This is really an infinity journey for everyone, right? No, no one can reach in a day or in a year or so. It's a continuous journey. Coming to the specific question on the strategic vision, right? Just before that, let me introduce myself.
Yeah.
As My name is Praveen, and I currently work with Payu Group of Company as CISO. Wipmo is one of the entity under Payu, which has been acquired recently. And before that, I worked with JP Morgan, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, HDFC Bank, mainly in technology, risk, cyber, and CISO world kind of portfolio. I also acquired few certification like you, Neha. Rather, most of the certification I have, be it CISS, PPFP, TOGAF, CISA, CA, many things, right? I don't remember all these things. Having around two decades of experience in this domain. So yes, no, CISO played very critical role, right? And as you rightly said, that DevSecOps or DevOps is unavoidable, right? Unavoidable, considering the digital journey or considering that the agility of demand of agility, demand of resiliency, demand of portability, demand of scalability. Uh, these are the business demand, right? And to cater these demands, security professional or CTO or CIO, they don't have much choice but to move to the modern application, right? And there is distinct differences between modern and legacy application. Legacy application, as you know, and many of you know that since I've been working last 2 decades, I know that what is legacy application, what are the issues, right? It's very difficult. One big piece of code in in one server, understanding those code, understanding those logic, changing any logic, it is a challenge for developers, it is challenge for production team, it is challenge for release team, it is challenge for change management team, everyone's nightmare, right? And that's why this new concept has come called modern application. So modern application is nothing but, if I make categorize into characteristics of modern application, that any application who provides the agility, agility means the faster to market, any application who can provide the resiliency, resiliency is again nothing but always available, any application who can provide the portability, which is very important, right? That from AWS to Azure, from on-prem to any public cloud, anywhere it can be portable. Any application who can provide the the resiliency and availability, etc. Right? So these are the three, four characteristics of modern application, and there are again the features as well. These are the characteristics, and there's few features like right. It has to be the cloud agnostic. Because if you are creating any modern application and if you are binding with AWS, then there would be some problem. Like you, many of us seen that there was outage in one of the availability center of AWS. And I'll give you my perspective as well, that we had the AWS setup, and that availability center was in US. And then auditor came that you are into payment industry, and that you should be moving to the India data center 2 years back. And there was some issue to move from Asia Pacific to India data center or availability zone of AWS. So it is very important that how you can making this portable and cloud agnostic. Also that security as a code or infrastructure as a code. It's very important that you should be creating everything as a code, right? This is the new concept. You cannot depend on the tools. You cannot depend on the everything should be code, especially security and infrastructure as a code. To be the agile, to be the portable, to be the scalable, right? And also that the code base, right? That is the one of the characteristics, and you should be using the either new technology like Kubernetes, new technology like API on Kubernetes, containerization, lots of security scanning tool, CI/CD pipeline automation. So these are the few things which together make the modern application. This is just a definition of modern application from my perspective. Hope I'm able to clear that what is the difference between legacy and and modern application. The best part of modern application is that micro segmentation, right? It is very important that logically should be isolated all your models, so that if you want to make changes in one of the model, one of the logic, without disturbing anything, you can create that. And that's why Google is able to roll out in all their changes in 11.7 seconds. Wipmo is in this transition journey, Neha and everyone, right? When I joined 8 months back as CISO of Wipmo, though I do many things in Wipmo, but as a role of CISO, it was completely on-prem shop, because of the various region, the customers demand, the banking customers demand kind of thing. And then we had a tough challenge to even create a strategy to move on the cloud to get this agility and scalability or resiliency or portability, because that was the business demand. And we first created the strategy. We created the cloud framework, security framework, governance setup. We had few good resources who understand that cloud, who understand the cloud security as well. So these are the few, on the architecture side, on the governance side, on the policy side, on the framework side. These are the base, non-negotiable. Unless you have these in place, don't even think about cloud, because moving to the cloud is easy, but managing the cloud setup is always challenging, either security risk side or the auditor side or anywhere, right? So first create this architecture, policy, process, governance framework, resource hiring, training, create awareness, create a good business case, the cost saving, the agility, etc. What you will get. Then you start the either you will have two options, and I had personally two options. Either all new my new product will be on the cloud first strategy, or we can slowly move to the our legacy application to the cloud. So both strategy you can take. You can take one by one depending on your bandwidth or your maturity level. But you should be adopting the very cautious approach. That this is where I adopted, that all my new product henceforth will be on the cloud. right? And it will be completely modern application, completely based on the all the new cloud technology, right? Kubernetes, API, and everything, which I'll talk later, I think. And then you also have to the complete architecture in place, right? You have to create the landing zone, you have to create the IT layer, security layer, the CI/CD pipeline, automation, however you to integrate the SSD or DSD scanning in the part of your cloud or your code development and the deployment side as well. Use the good technology. And then once you have the strategy and the framework, the architecture, the resources in place, then it is easy cake to even manage the movement and then also manage the operation. I'll pause here now. I hope I answered your query.
Yes, yes. Some very, very interesting points and good insights, especially about moving to cloud is easy, but maintaining and keeping up with all the requirements, especially from the security perspective, but also, as you pointed out very correctly, agility, resilience, scalability, availability. In fact, those are the reasons that we now have moved to modern apps from legacy apps because business requirements have changed and IT is catering to those business requirements through cloud and cloud DevSecOps.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Next, would like to hear from Sapna, who is our talented woman on the panel, the other one. So let's hear from Sapna about DevSecOps myths and facts. And Sapna, please do introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Neha. Hello, everyone. My name is Sapna Singh. Currently, I'm working with Honeywell, Connected Enterprise Product Security Team. So, apart from many initiatives, I do perform security reviews for cloud native apps and modern apps based on containers, microservices, Kubernetes, etc. So, we do perform activities such as threat modeling, network architecture reviews, SaaS test, software composition analysis, pen test, and all. And prior to Honeywell, I have had opportunity to work with Deloitte Middle East, where I work with oil and gas sector clients and banks. And previous to Deloitte, I have worked with Cognizant and Timing. I have also some exposure into software development. I hold certain certifications such as CISSP, CCSK, and some certifications related to cloud. So yes, I am also passionate about cloud, like all of you. So, about the DevSecOps myth and misconceptions. So, we know that whenever there is a new program, process, or technology is introduced, there are always misconceptions. And so is the case with DevSecOps. But I believe that we need to talk about them and we need to demystify those misconceptions on such stages for us as a community to lead the success for DevSecOps. So, especially if I talk about DevSecOps, there are a lot of misconceptions, but I would like to highlight top three. So, first one would be DevSecOps is something that we can simply buy and implement. So, but that is not the case. It's not a single tool or single process that we can implement. It could be the vendor's language, right, to sell their tools or sell their technologies, but it's a partnership among people, process, and technology, right? We do need tools. That's a fact. We do need technology so that we can implement tools with the existing DevOps tools. And definitely, these tools should work better, not give a lot of false positives, should not conflict with DevOps tools. And then we need to have process to wrap these tools around. And at the last, we need to also focus on people because people aspect is the key for transformation in any organization. So we need to have management buy-in, we need to have leadership support in terms of resources, budget, and also they need to communicate the importance of this cost program. And then we need to focus on awareness and training. Like if I give you an example of Honeywell, we do have a security advocate program and security champions program where we have identified security advocates and champions from across the team, across the globe, from various locations. And then we have a training throughout the year, because it's not like we can just train once and we expect that everything will change, right? So we have trainings for them, classroom training, instructor led training, and also for a specific group specific types of training. We also collect a lot of feedback from them, because again, it's not like that what we want to tell them, what we want to train them, that's the case. We need to also get their feedback and understand their requirement, so that the training could be useful. So, talking about the second myth that I would like to talk about is DevSecOps means changes for development and operations rather than for security team. And again, it's not the true case, right? Because in DevSecOps, we want everyone to be responsible for security, but it does not mean that security would dictate anything here. It's totally a collaboration, right? It's not like security will share 1,000 pages of report with a lot of vulnerabilities, and now development or operations are supposed to fix those issues. Rather than, they need to collaborate, understand what is critical, right? What is something that they should fix, because developers are not going to fix thousands of issues. Their main job is to develop, their main job is to have the rapid releases. So that's the reason the collaboration is important. They need to come to common ground, understand and define some threshold, like these are the critical issues and these need to fix before the release, rather than working on everything at once. So the last myth that I like to highlight is DevSecOps will completely secure SDLC. I think that's what we want from the DevSecOps program. But uh, the moment we implemented the program, it's like something that we should not expect. We have to give some time to this program. There are a lot of components that we need to focus on. So such as we need to measure the maturity of the program, right? We need to define where we want to go and where we are currently. We have to define some KPIs so that we can measure the success, and then work on this cultural transformation, behavior, and lot of other aspects to ensure that we reach up to the level what we want to achieve. But as you all said, it's a continuous journey, right? Whatever we expect today might change in future, so we have to consider that factor as well.
Some very very good points, Sapna. Thank you. Especially like the point about having this collaborative approach. So it's not somebody just security is responsible or the development team is responsible, but rather the collaborative approach. And in the beginning, what you said about our responsibility as a community to demystify the myths. That's such a wonderful thought. Thank you very much. Okay, so we also have on the panel with us Harshit, who is a young entrepreneur, and I would look I look forward to hear from you, Harshit, about uh, like how to see how what are your views on deploying secure modern software development for cloud native applications, and especially how can one leverage cloud native DevSecOps to ensure security testing is throughout the development workflow. So let's welcome Harshit for his opening address with his introduction.
We are a mobile application security testing company that works with enterprises to secure their mobile applications. And we offer DevSecOps for mobile applications, very specifically in the niche area of that. Now, coming on your question, Neha, and thanks a lot, Praveen and Sapna, for shedding more light on what exactly is cloud native apps and why exactly DevSecOps is important and what are myths around it. So coming on how one can implement it, I think cloud native apps offer a lot of benefit over the monolith way of development that we had earlier, where some of the top benefits, like I think what Praveen had mentioned, are faster time to market, resiliency, automation, option of scaling up as and when needed. But security is one of the key challenge in achieving it, is what has been highlighted by a lot of teams, and that's where I think the whole importance of CI/CD in cloud native apps become even more important. Some of the things that you have to make sure while including CI/CD in development lifecycle, I think Sapna has covered few of it, where you need to align people, process, and management and technology together. and make sure that there is a buy-in from all the teams. And ideally, this buy-in is not only required from the managers, but from the team that will be working towards it. uh, then you have to ensure that you are using right kind of cloud platform, because uh, it, cloud native cloud in general has got shared responsibility. So there is a lot of things relied on what cloud platform has to offer towards you managing the security along with what they are managing at their end. And you need to have a holistic view of how you are securing your application. uh, Apart from that, security has to be embedded as part and parcel of the development team, starting from the very early stage. So the whole concept of shift left has to be implemented over there, where the issues have to be detected as early as possible and has to be fixed. That can help you stick to one of the core concept of moving to cloud native, that is the agility. Because the earlier you detect, the more faster you can fix the issue and release the app. And that's where we as a company or AppNox also sits in the whole infinity that Neha had shown to all of us, where we are sitting at code and build between that. As in, when the app is getting built, we test and immediately point out security issues, and that's where technical team can fix it at that moment rather than at the end of the entire process. So yeah, from that perspective, I think CI/CD is very very critical, and has to be part of cloud native apps, especially when you are introducing security also into it, and has to be managed by the same team that is managing the entire process end to end.
Okay. Yeah, good points there. In fact, yeah, leveraging on from what you said, it does remind me also what Sapna mentioned about having the community working together. How Netflix, when it moved from its business model from shipping DVDs to streaming video over the web, they built the Simian army by enlisting the volunteer help of hundreds of developers together, and a suite of automated tools was that came up with the name Simian army to incorporate security along with our DevSecOps uh, work or the journey that we are referring to. Without further ado, introducing our final panelist for this session, Charles, who is joining us all the way from Australia. Charles, I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing your views during our pre-panel discussions and the email exchanges. Maybe I would request you to share your expertise on how can threat modeling help with improving security in cloud native apps. Especially threat modeling did come up in the infinity the diagram that we see that we saw earlier during the session. Please
Great.
do the honors, Charles. Yeah.
Thank you, Neha. So I'm Charles Gilman. I'm the head of security at a fintech startup here in Australia, and we're purely cloud native. So we're all serverless, and so I haven't had to worry about the Log4j vulnerability this week that everyone else seems to be worrying about. My background is I actually started as a developer, so I have 10 years of development before switching my career over into security, and then I moved into various roles within banking before moving across into managed services space and then fintech. So I was really pleased to hear that Sapna talked about, doing the threat modeling and threat and risk assessments at Honeywell, because I think that threat modeling is often underrated or a step that's skipped in that whole DevOps life cycle. So threat modeling allows you to actually uncover potential weaknesses in your cloud native applications very early on. And then we can actually either code defensively against it, or we can overlay controls. So it's very important in that respect. I like to apply two different lenses to threat modeling. I like to look at the infrastructure and do threat modeling of the infrastructure, and then also a separate threat model for the application. And so then we look at the tools and techniques that maybe an attacker would use, and then we apply that to the model. We look at what our assets are. That might be client data. It might be a critical system. And then we look at how an attacker might try and access those resources. So there are lots of different methodologies out there for doing threat modeling. I personally prefer Stride. It's quite simple. So STRIDE stands for spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. And then there's a variation of STRIDE called STRIDE LM. So add the LM on the end there, and that LM is lateral movement. So if we look at advanced persistent threat, APTs, they will typically break into an organization and then they will laterally move. So we apply the lateral movement to that model as well. So we kind of assume breach and then look at how that model can then work out. So one of the biggest deliverables that I like out of threat modeling, it's not just where our controls are, or how we can actually code something securely. It's actually creating test cases for penetration testing. So we often make assumptions about the security of our environment or the ability of an attacker. And what deriving test cases for pen testing does is give those test cases to the pen testers and then let them either dispel those assumptions or validate those assumptions about the environment and maybe the efficacy of the controls. So to me, it's not just about upfront, early on in the process, you're looking at the model, but it's also at the back end, just before it hits production, that you're doing that penetration testing and validating that everything made it all the way through from the test model, from the modeling right through to the delivery of the product.
Right. Agree. Yeah. I think it relates back to the old adage that prevention is better than cure. So if you have your threat modeling in time, probably you will be able to catch those or nip the vices in the bud. Right.
Hey.
Yep. Well said, Charles. Thank you so much. I'll quickly touch base on my forte, which is risks and controls. So as an auditor or as a security consultant, what we focus on usually, because as in the beginning I mentioned about SDLC to DevOps, we did lose some, or we did give rise to some risks which need to be catered to when we are going on a DevSecOps journey. Especially, so pointing out a few. First one will be developer access to production. So in an SDLC, you would usually see developers separated from your ops people who would, so the developer develops and the ops people migrate code to production. But with modern cloud apps, the segregation is gone. In fact, one of the biggest supermarket chains in Singapore, which I had audited, moved to cloud, and they had this pool of 40 programmers, all of them having permanent access to production code. So from an auditor perspective, this was a big risk. Other risks that come up with cloud are, or in cloud DevOps, is rapid pace of change and high volume, as we also discussed earlier. And if that change is appropriate or not, which we need to review. For example, given the culture of this rapid change, you don't have robust documentation in terms of BRDs, your FRDs, as you had in a waterfall model. So how do you address and verify that those changes which are made are appropriate? Basically, what is being implemented is what was required, and if these changes are authorized. So given these risks, a set of simple controls that we could have in our DevSecOps journey, very rightly pointed out by all our panelists here. First one being automation. Because you have this high volume of transactions, it's no way possible that manually every stage of our DevSecOps cycle could be reviewed. So having SAST and DAST, strong detective controls, test automation, as well as release automation, which is automation of the entire process of code development to migration, to ensure that what is being developed and approved is the same code which is implemented in production. And we could use tools such as Puppet and Chef, which provide automated configuration management functionality as well. Second control would be privileged access monitoring and logging. Now, since you have the same set of people doing development and production migration as well, you would need probably robust logging of production data edits by developers or these people to enable a quality review post-approval if ever needed. Third one, an easy fix, is a peer review. So this was what our recommendation was for our supermarket chain as well, that the functionality is easily available in Jira. So what they did was every piece of code which was migrated to production was reviewed by another programmer for one of those 40 people for SOD purposes. And a training point which is very well brought out by Sapna is that you train developers on your secure coding techniques, because uh, throughout like last few years in the OWASP top 10, programmer backdoors have been ranking number one, and that is why training programmers is of paramount importance. So these are some of the pointers for risks and controls, but I would like to hear more from Praveen on a proper approach to build a secure app in cloud with DevSecOps in this era of modern apps.
Thank you, Neha. And indeed, this is again good question. So I'll give you my real life example, right? That how I'm still trying to build that secure development culture in my organization, right? So as I said, right, I think Charles also has pointed out that shift left culture, right? This is important, and building the shift left culture, as you rightly said, that training and awareness plays very critical role. Apart from this training and awareness, right, the few technical controls also play very parallelly critical role here to ensure that your whatever you are doing or developing, it is safe and secure to use by your customer or by your company, right? So what we did, right, like threat modeling, right? The threat modeling, to incorporate threat modeling, to incorporate our standard, to incorporate all our ISO standard, NIST cyber security standard, application security framework, or all hundreds of framework what we have. We created a good, very comprehensive Excel sheet called Security and Privacy by Design. Okay, and any product manager or application or team or LOB team, come up with an idea. Was next 3 months I need to create this kind of product. Then first and foremost, because I also sit on the board, I share that security and privacy by design, that comprehensive template, right? Was if you are even thinking you have to do this application threat modeling, you have to create this kind of architecture. These are the minimum requirement I have, and then you start ideating or creating the architecture based on that framework itself. So that is the one part which is helping me to really build that shift left culture. The second leg is that the automation of CI/CD pipeline, right? That we have integrated SAST tool, DAST tool, or all other scanning as part of the developer's life cycle. The moment he is committing any code for the day, that's I'll not take the name of any security tool. The moment that will start functioning, and they'll check the boss. These are the against the or rather these are the vulnerabilities as per OWASP top 10 or any other application security framework, and the person cannot commit to that piece of code, right? They have to rectify, and then it will reach to the QA team, right? The QA team is nothing but peer testing or one more layer of testing. But this is how we are helping, and I'm seeing one good question coming, that whether this security automation or integration as part of developer lifecycle will reduce the developer's output. No, answer is no, right? In the contrary, it will help to increase the output of developer, right? Gone are those days, the moment of release, CISO and his team will come, boss, stop this. You cannot put into production because you have hundreds of vulnerabilities, right? Now, everyday developers know, still know that these are my, bugs, and I have to fix to commit to even create the, deployment bundle, right? So this is where it helps to increase the output. It helps to increase the security. It also helps to decrease the frustration, right? And I have seen those frustration 5 years back. So no, answer is no. It will rather help the output of that. This is where I build that automation. The third and foremost, and this is my personal tip to all my audiences, that democratization of security. Right, I don't keep application security team with me. Right, I decentralize all my 4 members team to different LOB. He is reporting to the developers lead or QA lead. Functionally, of course, he gets guidance from me, but he is day to day working with them so that all developers will get immediate support, because that my team is sitting with them. So that's why I created this immediate support system to help to understand that any tool's output, that what exactly to be done, right? This output of any scanning tool is very complex. Understanding from the developer takes time. That's why democratization of security helped me a lot. And the fourth tip, or what I have implemented, I can tell you that lots of automation I have done. Lots of automation, that use of Kubernetes, use of all the API integration, automated tool, use of Ansible, that integrity and the confidentiality of that build to be ensured, the safe and puppet what we talk about. Yeah. Those are the very important tool which we you know install as part of my complete CI/CD pipeline, and which ensured me or rather helped me to create the security as a code. Right? And first and last, and maybe not last, but one more a critical point, that access control we talk about. That access control is really very play very critical role, and it won't help just to using any privilege ID management. Yeah, now again that privilege ID management will help in lots of ways. You have to go much more beyond that as well, like just in time access, like CASB, right? Cloud Access Security Broker, like provisioning or authorization of that particular application, the access control wise, and that need to know basis kind of thing. So lots of thing, zero trust architecture which we implemented. It is not helping me to mitigate the risk from work from home, but also it is helping me to secure my cloud journey, right? That zero trust, where it's just in time, privilege ID, the risk certification, everything is bundled as part of that zero trust architecture. So those are the few
Right.
controls to ensure that whatever you are doing, it is secure and ready to be used in your
Great.
operation.
It's super
That's all.
hearing everyone's thoughts. I hope as our audience has benefited from this as well. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to the panelists, to DSAI and all our attendees. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
everybody.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.